Alright guys, I guess I'm just going to introduce myself as the Nazir, since that's really what my YouTube channel is branded under, and that's fine. You can call me May, like the month of May. Shh, don't tell anybody. Alright, there's some things that have been revealed to me in my journey and into Torah and under the headship of Mashiach, Messiah, most commonly referred to as Yahusha or Yahushua. Some people say Yeshua. I have sat on some of those things and actually really stopped communicating and sharing the things that I was learning for about 2 years. I was just doing some Proverbs, but I actually removed most of my previous videos and the things. I left up the one about Kanye just because it was very humbling for me to be like a crying mess like that, and I just I know that I need to always stay humble, and so that, you know, that's one of the reasons that that one's still up. But I'm coming forward right now tonight, and it's on the Gregorian calendar. It's April 27th. It's April 27th, and it's we're now into the evening, and on Shabbat or Sabbath. And I just shared a post from a sister that was pointing out one of the verses in Amos that talks about time and reference. And I guess before I get into this further, prefix upon prefix, or pretext upon pretext, line upon line. So let's establish something. According to his word, by a witness of two or more will a thing be established. Alright, now I'd like to draw out an analogy in our head. How many eyes do I have? 2. How many ears? 2. How many noses? 1 nose, but 2 nostrils, right? And 1 mouth. Okay, so do my 2 eyes act together, or do they see a double image? No. If they're functioning correctly, the way that they were designed, they're going to see together in one image, and together they're going to have a more comprehensive view. Make sense? Same thing with the ears. I've got an ear on each side of my head, and if one's blocked, which I have a problem, you know, I've been a swimmer and a surfer, and I get my ears get blocked up, and sometimes I notice, like, okay, I'm having a hard time here out of the side, and it limits my experience. It limits my ability to fully engage that sense of hearing, which is one of my abilities, one of my gifts of perception that is then affected. Okay? So the picture that he gives us, even the nose, it just pulls from 2 directions, but it gives us, you know, we smell different things, but it's like in one source, right? So these, and even the housing of the nose, it shows oneness, right? And it ultimately talks about that the anointed will not be deceived by their eyes and his eyes and ears, but he ultimately, like, what, he's going to sniff out the truth. He's going to sniff it out, right? Isn't that what we talk about when we're searching for the truth? We're sniffing it out, right? We don't, I mean, that's an expression. I'm sniffing it out. And then we have 1 mouth, which I would say is the gateway between the heart and the mind, which represents the father and the mother, so to speak, or the masculine and feminine. But going back to what we're talking about now, I wanted to establish just a pretext or prefix or a context that he provides witnesses, And those witnesses come in different forms, so to speak. And I would use vision and hearing as a form, and scent, right? Those are different dimensions that come together to create a more cohesive context and experience. So we've established that he will establish, we've confirmed that he will establish a thing by a witness of two or more, in the same pattern that he's given us. Eyes, our physical body, which is a reflection of the spiritual principles. And also we have five senses, which represent the physical world, which is the Chaya, or the Hey. It's the H. It's the five of which gets added to fire to make Aisha, woman. It's also the five that gets added to Yud to make Iyah. Okay, and then if you take the Yud and you add that to fire and put it between the Alaf and the Shin, you get Aish, man. So his language is so profound that his language itself is a witness. The writings themselves are a witness, and then we have the natural order, the natural world, which is a witness. All right, so the witnesses in terms of when the day begins at sunrise. Okay, that's established by his word, which said in the beginning, he said, let there be light, and there was light. And he declared it good, and he set it apart from the darkness, and ultimately the darkness did not know it. But darkness itself is nothing but the absence of light. So there was nothing, and then there was the light. So that light is the beginning. Now, even in the language itself, all right, so I just said, Christ pointed out not only that the words won't change of the Torah, but the punctuation won't change, the little details. So check out the little details. So here we have the word, that it's the sentence that says, in the beginning was the light. We also have within the word light, that same picture, another witness, which is the letter commonly called Aleph, I would say is Alaf. Okay, that's the A, that's the upside down ox. Okay, it's the head, it means chieftain, the teacher, the principal, the ruler. In the ancient world, the horns are a sign of authority and power, and the ox was the greatest animal with these massive horns, and that represented the power and the authority of the Creator. And this was the picture of a man at the beginning who would yoke himself to this ox, and he would go and furrow the earth and put the seed in it, and to get to a straight line, he would yoke himself to the ox, and he would put the tho, or the tav, people call it, at the end of the field, so he could walk in a straight line, and therefore plant his seed in the earth in a straight line, which is ultimately the real meaning of Yisharel, is to do his straightness. Okay, so now right in the language, it's saying that the Alaf, the head, the chief, and then it's got this letter often called Vav, which we look at as a U, sometimes a V, and that represents what? A stake, a connector, something that is connecting. Now, if you take those two letters together, they're the root word AU of the word desire, to desire. Well, what is to desire? To attach, right? Well, that's why it's AU. It's literally to attach yourself to something is to desire it. So when you add the hey and it manifests the desire, now it's a noun. Now it's desire manifest. But before, with it's just the alaf attached to the yud, it's just to desire. And this is something I'll reveal in another teaching later when we get into whether or not there should be a female or a male nazir. So the actual word light in Hebrew, or, is this picture of a chief or a head or principal ruler attached to the beginning again. Resh, a head, the beginning. A principal ruler or chief attached to the beginning or the head. Okay, that ultimately is, I would say, what we call the Yahid, the oversoul of what is all things that are the Word, and the Word being His Son, because it's what came forth from Him and did His will and did His purpose, was He created through His Word. So in the spiritual context, what comes out of you, right? What comes out of your mouth is a fruit. The action of your hand is a fruit. What comes out of your loins is a fruit. What comes out of your thoughts are fruits, either internally or externally. Okay, this is language. This is concepts. So what's amazing is that his language the word reveals something, the letter of the word reveals something, and then the word goes and forms a sentence, and that makes forms something even greater. And it's literally like a tree that grows. You got the letter, and then you've got more letters, and then you've got a word, and then you've got sentences, and then you've got chapters, and then you've got books. Oh, it's a tree of life. It's a tree of life, which I believe is in the tradition of what our brother Yehuda calls the sages. That's the fig tree. That's why the tender of the fig tree is called out, specified prophetically. That's the one that has regard for his law, his Torah. The tender of the fig tree. So, this is about the beginning of the day, which is in the RASH, which is, now we look at that word, RASH. Let's look at that word. Wow. In the head. Well, that's head. And then the Aleph. Well, the Aleph literally is to embody something, to do it, to be it. Whereas I would say the Yud, the hand, represents to do that. That's why Ashar is to be straight, to be joy, or prince, to be prince. Shar, and then Ishar, which I would say is Israel. Many say Yashar, some say Isar, but that's Babel. Ishar would then be to do that straightness, which is why Jacob was renamed, and why anyone can become part of that name of Isharel if they bind themselves to his what? Word and spirit, and they do his will, and they go straight. They are then part of Isharel. But, so the day, all right? Now, I talked about the language, which now you look at Bakar, which is literally house, Beeth, Beth, Bet, Kuf, which is literally this spot right here, kind of in the back of the head, where the chin, where the jaw, kind of the opposite side where the jaw attaches at the neck. It's right there at the base of the neck. So what that is a picture of is as the day begins, right, and it goes, let's say the sun comes up, now it's going down, and it's way dark, and then it's coming back, and now it's going to come up again, right? So literally the beginning, the end is the tail of the beginning, and then when you get to that tail, you got a new cycle. So when our sages were in Babylon and they lost touch with the word and the spirit, when they came back into the Torah and they read that there was evening and then there was morning, these simpletons just took it as evening came first and then morning came later, but they didn't realize that the evening is the tail of the day, and then the night becomes the head of the where that tail ends in the day becomes the head of the night, which then becomes the tail to the day, which is the head of the day. It's almost like literally like this picture of yin yang, but without the two dots. That adds something else different. It's a whole other spiritual context. But the yin yang itself, without those other dots, would represent visually the day and the night. And there's a head and there's a tail. And so because people don't understand language, and confusion happens through language, Babel, Babylon. If you actually look in the Bible, it never says Babylon. It's always B. It's B-B-L. Well, the first time the B, my understanding of Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, is that when the B is the prefix position, it's a hard B. But then when afterwards it becomes a softer V. And the reason why the Father has these different sounds in the language is to create boundaries for the words, so that when we speak quickly, these words have structure and the tongue is not confused. It's because there's no confusion in his tongue. There's no duplication of sounds for letters like in modern Hebrew, where they talk about sheen being an S, when no, it's only Samic that's an S. It's not a sheen. That sheen is the SH, just like it's not tav, it's tho or thav. It's a th, just like the sheen, the same pattern, and then p sounds p at the beginning, and then after it's the same pattern, p, t, and that's teeth, and it's even spelled teeth, yud, and then tho. So it's giving you the two different letters in the actual name of the letter character itself, so that you understand that there's like literally how to say it, and it shows you the distinguishing phonetics right there in each character name if we're saying them properly. So I've covered the language part because that's like my passion. Now let's look at the natural world. What does the natural world reflect in terms of beginnings and end? Okay, where's the beginning of me? It's right here on my crown, right? Oh, what's the crown? The crest. Oh, okay, it's round. Look, even like the sun. If this could be like, okay, look. Oh, my head just did what? Rose up, just like the sun. And what'd you see first? A little sliver, just like the moon. But when you see the sun, you see the top, you see the head. Why? Because that represents the man. So you see the head. The moon, you see the bottom come up first. Why? That represents the tail, what we call the tail. It's the lower half of the body. That's the feminine. It's like the reproductive organs, the womb. That's, it's also about leadership, because there's headship. The head has to steer the body, and the lower body needs to be there to support the functionality and the reproduction of that head. It's all a beautiful picture, guys, and it's literally, there's three witnesses that are always perfectly aligned, and those witnesses are his tongue, the actual word we receive from him, the writings, the sacred writings, and then nature itself. That's real Kabbalah. That's what real Kabbalah is. It's those three things. Don't confuse it with anything else, because I'm not pitching that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the real revelation, mystically, and the deep revelation comes through those three principal channels, and then ultimately he even then in addition to that is his voice, or even a messenger. And that's kind of like, there goes three and adding two is five again. He works in interesting patterns. So then, like, if you think about it, we have five senses, like, that we literally have our exterior experience, and that represents the feminine. And then we have one on the interior, which is our inner world, which represents the kingdom of heaven and Yah, like, and literally that's even in the language itself, whereas the hand is 10 or reduces to 1, and the heya, or the hey, it is actually 5. And so 5 and 1 is 6, which is the 6th day, which is the sign of man, which is the day that we were created in. It's also the connector. Man is the connector between father, what we call father and mother, the heavens and the earth. Our head is in the heavens, and our feet are on the earth, and our head represents our connection to the spirit, the consciousness, and our feet represent our connection to the earth, just like he says, my footstool is the earth. Well, our footstool is the earth too. My throne isn't in heaven like his, but my footstool is the earth as his. I walk on my Father's footstool. My feet are where his feet are, but my head, his thoughts are above my thoughts. His thoughts are way higher than my thoughts. I'm just a little peon down here. He's like way, way up there, right? So, I'm just so thankful that there are some witnesses to this, and I credit, I don't even know his last name, but I credit my brother Mark in his group, and he has been teaching this to his group, and I'm crediting him as my first witness that let's see, I'm not sure, maybe Nick Vanderland, I'm not sure about him with the day beginning at, if he's on the day beginning at sunrise or not. I think that there's probably a few people that I've encountered. I don't actually know if Mark's the first, but Mark is the first that I feel is really teaching that, along with his message to return to the Ten Commands. He's coined the phrase the royal law, which is a phrase that's mentioned in an English interpretation one time in the New Testament. And he's calling the royal law, as I understand it, basically eating clean, observing the Ten Commands. I personally think that there's more to it than that, but I believe the core of his message needs to be heard, and I've shared it, and I've called attention to it, and I hope that at some point we are able to have fellowship together and break bread. And I admire the zealousness of those that are learning and fellowshipping with him. So, hallelujah. Um, 20 minutes into this, I'm going to try to cut it at 22, which is a reflection of also the language, 22 letters, 22 minutes. I hope this is helpful, and I certainly am open to feedback in terms of respectful communication and questions, and but I certainly don't respond well to people speaking in the definitive as if they're the ultimate authority on things. I am simply here sharing what I've learned and observed actually in the natural phenomena, like getting back to the whole sun and the moon, like they actually mirror each other. It's the same, like I said, his creation is so, oh my gosh, just beautifully orchestrated. It's so beautifully orchestrated. And then people ask me, why are you passionate about the language? Because there's so much that's revealed in the language. And that is like revelation of him, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. So it's literally, his word, which is his ultimately delivered in his tongue, and then it's his spirit, and those to me are represented by our eyes and our ears, because our ears, like, it's we use our ears when our eyes are closed, and our eyes, we're perceiving, but we can't hear, and that's why the ayin is actually silent, and sounds like a in Hebrew, because it's the eye, it makes no sound.